Mailbag number 6, and it's another one from the Hedgehog, who asks, what is the best way to handle too much crosstalk or talking over each other? Crosstalk is a tough thing to combat. Within a group of friends or folks who know each other, you can get out of it pretty easily, but in a group that does not know one another or is remote, it can be a bit more difficult. The answers are highly situational, but here are a few I've come across and how I handled them. If the table is talking about unrelated or related things, I typically take this time to be quiet and collect my notes as a DM. I'll also listen to see if anything they're saying is beneficial to the story either now or later on, and it could potentially be used for good or more devious methods. If there is one person looking to me to bring it all back, so everybody else is talking but one individual is like, hey, can we start up again? I'll say, all right, so you've defeated Gauzemodeus, the bandage monster, and to try to bring folks back in. You can also turn the music up as an indicator, but it's a bit passive-aggressive. If the group continues on and you can't get them back, you can always ask if they'd like to continue or if they're wrapped up for the day. Depending on how far in you are, maybe it's time to call it for this session. Don't think about it as admitting defeat in this situation. Main reason is, if no one else is engaged or active or paying attention anymore, then there's no point in trying to carry on. So for groups, it's really about just trying to draw them all back in, having conversations, otherwise just hanging out and waiting for them to pay attention again. Take your bathroom break, go get something to drink, go get something to eat, some snacks, whatever it may be. But give some indicator that you as the DM are ready to continue, and if they are as well, you can carry on. Crosstalk from two individuals is a bit more difficult to sort out, but there are a couple of ways to approach it. This is also critical for remote games. First, hear them both out. Rat Albert, let's hear what you've got to say, and then we'll come back to Alllright the Mall Cop. Be specific about who you'll hear first, and try to even it out across the session. Calling them specifically by name, using their name first, helps them realize like, oh, you are talking to me and you want me to respond first. This is very common in remote meetings where if you add their name at the end of the question, they won't know who you're actually talking to. If the two actions between the individuals conflict, work between them to determine how best to move forward. This sometimes ends up being a great roleplay moment, but can also be very frustrating for the individuals, especially if one ends up being louder than the other and always wins out. So as a DM, watch that as they go throughout the session and as they go throughout multiple sessions. If one individual is always getting their way, the other individual is probably ready to leave the table. Another thing to do is check in with them afterward. Be like, hey, I know there was some crosstalk and we ended up deciding on this thing that you weren't super into. Are you okay with how that went? It's possible that they weren't. And it's possible that they were okay with it. They just don't want to see a lot more of it. So as a DM, you end up being almost a meeting facilitator, and you have to make sure that both sides are heard. You're an arbitrator in a legal proceeding for some cases. Hear out both sides, figure out if they do or don't conflict with each other, and go from there. So those are a few tips on how to handle crosstalk at your tables. Again, a big headline here is talk to your table, talk to your players, talk to them beforehand about, hey, here's how I'm going to resolve crosstalk at the table if it happens. That way, when they're in the moment, they're not emotional about it. It's very well, they could still be emotional, but it will be more objective because you've headed it off at the beginning. There's no hurt in being explicit about this with your players, so be sure to talk to them, let them know what you're planning on doing as the situations arise, and then do your best to facilitate in the moment. Thanks as always for the mailbag questions. They're a lot of fun for me. I love digging in and trying to get a better sense of how would I do these things at my table if I haven't experienced them so far. Crosstalk for sure. Have had it a few times, and that's why I have these couple of strategies that I go through. Feel free to send in more mailbag questions, and until next time, roll high, stay ridiculous, and thanks for watching.